And we are live. Welcome back to episode 2 of showcasing you guys this. If you haven't seen the previous video, I highly recommend you check it. I will link the video. So it's going to be how created that automation for a home care service provider for the HR on board. The word of the day for there is seconds. Before hiring, background check, driving license, check the driving license points, documentation, what else? Educational certificates and everything. So all this information had to be collected, checked in, and then stored. And for compliance purposes, that's what. For compliance, you need to assume that CQC and Home Office can just knock at your door any day and just be like, show us your HR file. CQC is let's say the compliance body in the UK that oversees all the home care service providers. It's like the SRA for the lawyers, and then HMRC when they come and check your taxes out nowhere. When you don't have a actual process place, or you might have the process, but the process is simply too long. It's an extremely fast-paced industry where COSs you can change, and service providers work is always guaranteed for the day. Now let's go back into the main thing. As soon as you get your COSs approved, what you need to do is just on an onboarding crazy session. But the fact is, no matter how good HR might be, there is so many information you need to collect and keep on checking that the HR files end up not being a mess, but oversight, and they're not labeled correctly, or the labeling is different. So what you want to have ideally when you deal with Home Office or CQC is clear template that can be followed. How have it automated? Anything in place. I'm not saying you're guaranteed the outstanding, but you have way more possibility of getting the outstanding. It's just a simple good or required improvement. So we cover all that. Now let's just show you guys how this happened. So this automation was meant to be done, let's say, from after you interview them personally, even the issue comes in. Instead of having weird onboarding, this is simple. Come here, you send the form to the caterer, then they just submit everything in here. For this sake, this is not even a final one. This is the draft one. What we have implemented is slightly different, like the names are different, but I'm using this to showcase because there's nothing in here. That's the draft. You have them upload, a proof of the back. Once that happens, I'm not going to open this because it's actually fires. Come up with a new sub. As soon as that happens, the automation will trigger and everything will simply get pulled out, and a first folder will be created on Google Drive. So we have this in Google Drive, but it can be done somewhere else. Like let's say SharePoint if you use Microsoft. So what happens? We have as soon as the new submission comes in, you'll have. So what normally happens is CQC doesn't give you a direct labeling on how they want the folders to be. They simply want to see a specific type of information, specific type of documentation inside. Doesn't matter how you gather it, doesn't matter how you store it, as long as you have it. But if you can, now, while I'm still talking, just a quick overview. This comes in, then we create the main folder with a name. And after that, we create multiple folders. And as I was saying, it doesn't matter how many folders you have because they don't give a template. If you go through, we have the contract, the COS documentation, Home Office and CQC, onboarding, staff profile, and all the trainings. After that happens, you'll have all the happens. This automation is actually simple. You can literally see. I already have a submission sent in, so that's for Bob test. This will just fire automatically. So once you start onboarding a bunch of people, HR completes like let's say 70 to 80% of the onboarding procedure, but then they jump into the new person to start onboarding without finishing the 20%. But you and the 20% for employee time. When all that time could have been in time on actually, if you ain't never worked in an HR desk, man, dealing with people, it ain't easy, man. It ain't easy. Those that don't automation. So we have the same for CQC doesn't give yourself, but you need to be able to justify why you code it. Internal, what is it? Internal, that's your preference. Fine. Here we have custom variable for the name. Then same thing for the picture, custom variables, and then the passport picture. Now let's go show you guys, let's say another folder. Apologies, onboarding. Here we have the profile pication sent for yes, completed this board check. Obviously, not everything can be automated, but a good, I'd say 60 to 65% of the polishing everything, making sure that all the documentation is, or that the pictures are read, whatever is needed is actually there, or 5-year history without including gaps. Fine. So this is how the automation actually works. In the grand schemes of things, don't look at this automation just for the home care industry. This automation can be used for most businesses. But the fact is, there's some businesses for place. Not a lot of people later. So for industries like those, having an automation like extremely key. I work for a company, delivery company here, by the way, it's called Every. I worked for Every once, and that was it. It was just one day. I didn't fire myself. They didn't fire me. But it was one of those where I did actions. But that day. So an agency. So imagine if you're the HR of that agency, documentation wasn't even collected or double checked properly. Then they put me into the field, and then at 20,000%, my file was not correct files because as you hire to handle on the HR desk. So that's why a simple Google Sheets, but is the value that this creates. This is the value behind habit. So just to recategorize it, this automation is quite very simple. So everything starts from sending. This form can be amended if you need to collect. Everything gets stored into this master spreadsheet, and then from the spreadsheet, as soon as it's done, it triggers the automation. We have a new row added in, then everything gets created, the main folder, and then inside every single subfolder, we have the information. If you want to label it differently, everything is possible. Just change it here to, for example, every single CV will be labeled SRA002 Bob Test. That's how it actually operates. It can be amended and everything can be custom tailored, but this is like the draft template of how to automate HR onboarding systems. Rule number one, not even rule, the amount of time this can save. And here we are. I don't know how long it has been, but I like to say this is the end of the video. The home care industry, realistically speaking, is still outdated. Not a lot of people use the automation. There's still a bunch of pen and paper. There's still a bunch of onboarding. You need to call the candidate in, or call them in to actually scan the document, actually getting them into the office to scan the documentation. Beautiful. If you like to inquire about how I can create an automation like this for yourself, well, drop a comment down. If not, my LinkedIn is attached. You can just follow. If you want a custom tailored automation like this, well, I'm more than happy to see if I can create it. And if yes, well, you know where to find me. Ladies and gents, it's been a pleasure. I hope this video you liked it. Like, follow, share, and subscribe. I'll see you at the next one.